So I'm now directly in Cinema 4D and I have the scene already open, which is called Staubsauger 04. And the scene is really pushing the limit of cinema. It's very slow because these are not X particles, it's just a cloner system. And perhaps for the tutorial purposes, we will reduce the amount of stones on the floor a little bit to just have a bit of a better performance. Because, for example, here, if I click at the clones, I have 14 by 14, I have 42 by 42, I have 31 by 31 by 3, 11 by 3 by 11, and some extras. So these are a lot of clones. I didn't calculate them, but this is much. But overall, the scene, we have the foreground, which is the vacuum theme, vacuum cleaner theme, and the background is like the dirt, kinda also moving thingy, and it feels a bit construction-like, and so I like the look of this combination in there. And there's a lot of Megascan in there. I made some own stuff. There's some Demonsiever in there, some stuff I modeled, and some old projects. I copy-pasted them. You can see the boxes are from last month to just wrap everything quickly up. But we will focus on this guy first. So therefore, I'll close the scene to to get a boost in performance. And let's start. I have a new scene here, and this is my default scene. We also talked about that in a previous tutorial. And let's see. Where do we want to start? Well, first of all, I will add myself a floor objects because I also said that in one tutorial before, nothing can ever fall through these objects. So therefore, I will give this guy a collider body, and my normal floor I'll hide for now. Actually, I will hide the collider floor and I give back my normal floor. So nothing can fall now through our scene. Let's create our own stone pieces, and then let's get some from Megascan. So the people who don't want to subscribe to Megascan can follow this step, and the other ones can combine them or just only use the ones from Megascan. And I'll easily start with a sphere, and I'm pressing NB to see everything. And I'm switching to something like icosahedron. Then I'll give myself a displacer, put a displacer in the sphere, go to shading, go to noise. And I will go quickly here because this is super easy and basic. And we have this thing now. And I would like to have sharp edges. And the easiest thing to do that is just to put that into a Voronoi fracture and just cut some pieces out of this. And let's see. Perhaps these are even too many cuts. I would say we go into the sources, into the point generator, and let's reduce it by 10. And perhaps the pieces are still too big, too small, sorry. Something like that. And let's also accelerate the displacer. And I will go and choose another one with a bit more of a sharper edge. And therefore, we need to scale up this guy. And this is a bit too round, I would say. Perhaps tuple is not the best. Let's see. This place for annoy. Say works good. Yeah, this is nice. So we have a little bit of imperfection onto our sphere. And also let's keep in mind we want to clone a lot of pieces. So it's better to keep the poly count a little bit lower. And yeah, I would say this looks like something. Then I'll just quickly press C to convert this guy. And now we are having 2, 4, 5 pieces. Let's quickly PCR them. And also let's quickly hide these two guys. Now we have our selection. There's one cool trick. And also this tutorial, I'll try to implement as many tricks as I know. Because, well, the hover thing is not that difficult. But overall, I think it could be a nice lesson if you follow everything. So going back to the thing, what I wanted to show you is these tools, and it's called arrange. And for example, you have this thing and you want, well, to arrange them. I want to arrange them linearly, and let's move them a little bit. And it's a bit like a cloner, but just with objects, so it's nice. You can arrange them, and yeah, that's it. Super handy. Now you see the pieces what we created there, and this could be some like broken or scattered stone, and we could even put these all in VDBs to make them nicer. Okay, let's quickly do that because this process is so easy, and therefore let's just select one, put it into the builder, and let's see our polygon density. And this is too much because we will remesh it, then it's even nicer. Okay, I copied this guy, I'm pressing C, and I'll just repeat the process, pressing C and paste, select this guy, put this into the builder, press C to convert it, paste the copied one, put the new one in there, press C to convert it, and repeat the step one last time. And now we are having some stone pieces, which are quite interesting, but we have an issue now. They are too high poly because we want to clone them like crazy. And I have the quad remesher, which I'm like using in every tutorial, so I really recommend you to buy this guy. Well, before that, you can see all of them, they have the same null. So we select them all, I mean the same axis. We need to go into the axis center tool, and then we need to click in. You have to select them individually. Okay. So now they have all perfect axes, and now let's remesh them, and let's see, perhaps 200, and I don't want to have any symmetry here. That was from an old project. And let's see, 200 is even too much. Let's say 100. Remesh this guy. Nice. Remesh this guy. Remesh this guy. Remesh this guy. Remesh this guy. And as a last steps, we would need UVs. And this is also a process which I'm really doing kind of a lot lately in the tutorial. So let's call these stones. And let's again try to go super quickly, or else speed up at this point. Because when I go to the hoverboard, I'm opening up Horizon, just auto, make the stuff, nothing fancy. Probably really bad unwrapping, but it's really, the speed is important here. Go fast, go fast, go fast. And this also look crap, but I don't care. As long as the UV is quite alright, or you can of course spend more time in there, and also depending on how close you render your small stones. And I am not planning to render them that close, and also I will combine them with the Megascan stuff, so you won't see them in here. So really bad unwrapping from winds, nicey. But we are already done with 1, 2, 3 automatic all stuff, save and close. So all done with that. We modeled them, we displaced them, we meshed them, we retopologized them, and we UV'd them in only a couple of minutes. How many am I recording? 9 minutes. That's quite good. Then, where do we continue? Let's create a cloner. And for now, I will hide the camera and my lights, and I'll put that into the objects, and the hero is gonna be the Hoover, and these are the stones. Let's collect all of them and put them into the cloner. Well, actually the cloner itself we can put into the stone null, so everything is nice and tidy here. And this cloner we need to change, well, because you can see they are too big, so perhaps we need many more, 22 by 22, and our scale is perhaps 22 as well. So this looks already quite good, but let's give us more and a bit more spacing. And that was too much. 22, let's keep it in 22. Then let's add the kind of usual procedural, go in there, get a random effector, and I don't want to affect it this much. Let's say just a little bit. And of course you want to affect the scale, and the objects are already quite big, so I will more likely shrink them down. And of course we need rotation, and because of speed I'll go 9999999. And now we have a little bit of variation, and they're all dropping through the floor. And by the way, let's first of all give it a quick save. So some of the stones are looking below our ground, and that's normally they would fall through. Well, let's first of all have a look in our dynamic settings. So I'm pressing Command D and I'll go to the experts, and I think for this scene we are too big, and I'll go 0.05 because the stones will be quite small later on. And for the scale I will definitely use not 1 meter, let's say 10 centimeters. Okay, that's cool. And let's press play, and I'll go down a little bit to see, well, to show you what's gonna happen. So, well, nothing. That's because I didn't add a text. So go to the cloner at the rigid body, and yep, you can see in the first frame he's calculating a little bit because of the floor object. Everything is trying to push above it, and they get shoot out in the air, and kind of looks quite interesting. But that's because I don't have a gravity object. And I would say in the scene we overall work a lot with gravity, so I'll go in my basic setting and apply my gravity here. And well, to make the calculation easier, we can of course move the cloner a little bit up. So they're here. Nice. This is the first step. And let's make the stage also a bit bigger. And we can already go into a camera and see what we like. And I have a long lens of 220 millimeter here. And let's say we want to have something similar from the shot I made. So it's a little bit of a top view, but with a side angle. And let's give a cube for reference. This is 2 meter by 2 meter by 2 meter. That means these objects are way too big, so I'll clone them down by a lot. Let's see, one object now is around 7 to 11, 10 centimeters. Still too big. So perhaps 60% more down, and now we have 5 centimeters to 6 centimeters. Yeah, perhaps even a little bit smaller, like 10% more down. Nice. I would say that's the right scale for these small stones. And that's why I sometimes like to drop the cube to see like roughly in which dimension I'm working. Remove the cloner and save and press play. That is already looking quite good. Then let's add another layer of complexity. And let's go to Quixel Bridge. And if you're not using the bridge, you can also download all the stuff from their website. And I will go into my folder where I already purchased some stuff. And I worked with these little wood pieces and stones, but these ones worked the best. So if you don't have that many points, I recommend this pedals pack. And I already downloaded them, so I only need to push export at this point. And there's one thing, because I didn't say it, I'm using the newest cinema version 24, and Quixel has a bug. You can't use it in there, but you have to go to your working structure and then go to Megascan. Oh no, sorry, wait. The box was like this. You have to go to your export settings and download settings. Wait, where was it? Manage plugin settings. Exactly, to the settings you have to go. You have to scroll to this folder and delete the plugin and then download it and install it again. And you have to close Cinema 4D and then it works. But if you don't do that, it doesn't work. It's things like it's not installed, so you can't export. But with this little fix, it works. And now everything again here works also nicely. So I quickly press export and I just have everything in there, which is super nice. I already have a redshift tag and the files. Let's call this cloner base. And in my base cloner, I didn't have so many clones because, well, the clone is very like unified. There's randomness in there, but the overall look is very unified. And later on, I want to obviously change that. But let's select all these base objects and copy them in there as well. The good thing is the Megascan objects are also very low poly, so this is very good for the calculation and the speed. Then in the cloner, we want to change from iterate to random, so we have at least a little bit more randomness in there. And then let's press save and go back to frame 0, but we are already there, so let's press play and see if this works. Okay, you can see my PC is already getting a bit slower. We have only 11 frames in speed, but it's still okay. Later on, perhaps we can cut some of the clones from the side so we get a bit of a performance boost. But yeah, I would say I'm happy with that. And then let's reduce the amount a little bit so we are a bit quicker. And let's start with our kind of vacuum box thingy thing. So I'm leaving the camera and I can hide the cloner for now. And you can see here, this is the size of one stone. And I thought it would be interesting to have a little bit of variation around the walls for this guy. So when I'm going back to my files and I'm opening this again, you can see here are lines and we have one big cutout, and in the back there was nothing. We can make that cooler. So, but this is quite easy and let's get started with that. So I'm hiding everything again and we want to work now in the hero part. So therefore we will need a rectangle. And perhaps my box should be like 50 centimeters. Or is it too big? 40 by 40. And then we need a spline mask. So spline mask. And yet, unfortunately, the spline mask still sucks. I get so many weird errors with the thing that sometimes it's easier to do it with Illustrator and just import the finished vector file. But let's see if we get that to work. And I need a cloner. And let's say this is the small guy. Well, first of all, this was wrong. Let's make it 38 by 2. And now we can turn on the rounding. And that's super nice for the edges. But I think this is too high. And oh, let's go with 1.6 and 34. Yeah, I think this is, well, let's make it a little bit higher, the cutout. 36, cool. Then we need to, this is the cut. We need to put the cut into a cloner, and we this time need a linear clone. And on the x-axis, I'll just give myself a few copies. Let's see how many I will need. And perhaps, well, less and a little bit, tiny bit more spacing. Yeah, something like that. This looks nice. Or perhaps we did cut a little bit too much from the edges. So let's move that back in a bit and go 0.1. Nice. Then in theory, we could just put this into the spline mask, use the spline mask and cut out a, wait, was B? Miss A? Well, this looks quite good. And let's see if this works. We just need to give ourselves an extrude object, use the spline mask, put it into the extrude. It works kinda weird again. As I'm saying, this thing is weird. Why is it not symmetrical anymore? Look, this is the mask. Perfect. Not perfect. Perfect. Not perfect. Perhaps I'm also, perhaps we perhaps we switch A minus B, A subtract B, then we only have one piece. Perhaps it helps to put the cloner into a connect object. Sometimes these tricks help. Now it's totally gone. Then let's switch them around and say B minus A. It's doing something interesting, but obviously not. This is super interesting. And that's really nice that this is happening, because always something like this is happening to me. Okay, didn't work. Let's put this guy out and convert the cloner and select each of them, put them into a connect object, put the connect back into the spline object, and no, swap them, and nothing. And connect, no, let's get rid of the connect, just use a null. Remove this guy, no. So this is supposed to be perfect. No. And again, A minus B. Okay, we have only one cut. Perhaps inner null and inner connect object. Let's try that as well. Now we get the weird slanted thing again. Oh, perhaps we are sorry, we have, it shouldn't weld. We have to untick weld. Then it works. Nice. And let's see if I will undo. Well, first of all, I copy this guy if it doesn't work. I just want to see if the cloner also works with the connect object. And back. Here's the cloner and the connect. And here again, untick the weld button. Put the thing back into spline. Yeah. So at least you just have to put the cloner only into a connect object, then it works. But my box is quite thin. It had like 1 centimeter, 1.5, let's say 1.5 is a good thickness. And this is going to be 2 sides from my kind of volley robot guy. And let's say the floor, well, this guy goes here. Then let's call this left and right and bottom. So our bottom part, we just need the rectangle. We can get rid of that. And we could rotate it, or we could just actually go into the rectangle and switch our plane orientation. And let's move this down, and we have to think about if we wanna, well, I will move it up and let's kind of glue it together from the inside. Let's see if we are nicey here, perfect, and here the same. I was pretty close by placing this by eye here. This is nice, so cool. We got all of them. Now we can also select them and give them some roundings. Caps are always nice, 0.09 or something. Quickly pressing MB to see how it looks. It looks right and nice. What do we want to give them on the back and on the front? So let's copy another one, and that's the front. And also when we're working there, I can select all of them and call them box. Cool, then let's go inside the box, select the front guy and rotate everything by 90 degrees. Roughly place it where the front is going to be. And the front needs to be bigger to be able to suck the stones in. Let's see, perhaps we can make something different. Going into the cloner, and let's 2 clones. And let's make them big, and let's see how this works. And now we need a lot of space to let the stones in. Move the cloner to the middle. A little bit too much. Let's say 14. And do we want them round? No, actually, this is a nice back. Let's close the gap a little bit more so the stones won't fall out too much. And let's keep the rounding so everything has a nice rounded bevel. And yeah, I like it. It's a bit of like 2 eyes are watching. These are the eyes and this stuff comes in from the front. That's nice. So this is not our front. Then we'll call this black knot. Let's go for back. And quickly place this guy in position it. Doesn't have to be perfect. Of course, you can do this on your own because I want to go as quick as possible to the interesting part. And now you can see this is too high because we didn't glue it to the top, but that's quite easy because we have spline objects. I can just easily change the height and yeah, well, you could calculate and make it perfectly, but that's all right for now. Nice. And now we need a last thing. Now it's the front. So quickly copying this guy, putting this to the front, and we need big holes to be able to get the stones through. Perhaps we'll make something like that. Let's see how it looks. And move the cloner into the center of the thing so it's a nice composition. And yeah, I think that is quite interesting. I think I also like this design even more than the first one. In the first one I was a bit lazy actually, just copy paste and quickly go. And the cool thing, we can look inside, so we have a lot of things to see. We can look through this barn things and the stones won't fall out, hopefully. Perhaps we have to make these ones a little bit smaller, so the stones will definitely stay inside. So selecting the cloner and moving them just a little bit up. Then just one teeny tiny thing what we'll need, and therefore I'll quickly give myself a cube. We need the kind of the, how's it called, porch or the front ramp to this object, so the stones won't collide at the bottom of there. So therefore I'll quickly change my camera on the right side to a top view. It's easier to adjust the cube there. So let's make something like that, and yep, now it's fitting nicely. And the height is too much. Exactly, that's cool. And now I only need to convert it, but I think no, it was right. Let's press C to convert this guy, put this also in our null from the box. And I only need to select the front part of it and move it down. And I will switch my orientation here to the world orientation, so I can easily just move it down. And now our collector, and this is also nice because it reminds me to a nostril, like a nose, the two entrances. And yeah, this is definitely, it has some room for interpretation. And I'm just increasing the size from the front loader a little bit. That's done. So let's select the box and put them back in our structure, and I'll put it into my hero thing, and I will put my back and my floor all back on. And for now I will also use less clones, so it will be a bit quicker. And we can also move the cloner a little bit down, or actually in the random effector we will reduce the Y randomness and just increase these two, so we can move it even further down. Then our box needs to go up. Well, let's turn off the cloner again, and our box now needs also a simulation tag, and we need a collider body. And then we quickly need to animate this guy, and I hand animated it because yeah, it's the best way to have the right control of it. And also at this point I quickly want to talk about a thing. So, and you can see, let's make it, that I combined two different versions of them, and this version I rendered at the first, and I felt like there was too much motion. The camera is moving a bit too much and the object is moving too much. So overall we have so much motion blur that yeah, it was a bit too busy for my eye. Then this is the second rendering and it was a little bit too low. It's really hard to get the right amount of motion blur, but about the motion blur we'll talk a bit more into the next part in the design tier as well. So yeah, I just wanted to have a quick look again onto the animation, and let's quickly, well, we don't need any Y we only need these two types of orientation, position, and I don't know, let's move this guy a little bit around. Actually, sorry, we only need the H orientation. Let's move this guy here and a bit up, and let's rotate this guy. Then a few more frames, going back, and we need a lot of rotation. Perhaps we need a tiny motion here. I would say just go here and a lot of rotation. And then perhaps some slower part with only little motion. And then some more motion to the end again and more rotation. Then I already have this F-curve window here because I often need it. And I just select my curves and I go easy ease. And we can play around with the cursor of course later on, but let's quickly see what we created there. And we are only at 11 frames. So that's too slow to see the real animation. So therefore I will turn off any dynamics in here because I really want to focus on the animation. And now we have 20 frames only. That's not even real time. And it's super important to see real time. Otherwise you can't judge your motion. If you're working below 25 frames, you would have to export it and see the real file. But why is this so slow? Perhaps the spline mask is giving us some problems. So I'll copy my box and let's call it original and hide this guy. And this guy doesn't need any animation. And because the original part, we can then continue to work on these guys. But I will convert all spline masks and see if we have a better performance. And we lost everything. Why can't I convert it? Yet another miracle spline mask. Perhaps we need to convert the connect and then convert the spline. That works. So we have to convert the connect object first and then connect the spline. Otherwise it doesn't work. So now we have clean splines. And let's see about our perfectly. Now we have 300 FPS. So you can see Cinema has a really hard time calculating this spline mask in motion. So I hope they make an update of this little tool. It's super helpful, but crap. Nicey. Then let's see our animation. It obviously looks still boring. And also I will hide the stones, they distract me here. And this is also definitely too much motion, way too fast overall. So we have the first thing. I want this guy to ease in a lot. And we can even start like with a ramp. And let's see how that first motion looks. Super nice. Ease, and I think this is too much motion overall because you have to keep in mind the concept of motion blur. If the thing moves too fast, it's just blurry. And also if the animation is too fast, Cinema really has problems by calculating the dynamics. Let's have a look at the first one. And I think that's nice. So up till here we have a nice motion. Then I would say it would be interesting to first get a quick rotation change here. Let's see how that looks. That's way too fast. So this needs to be eased a bit more. And still way too fast. Let's move the keys around here. Still way too fast. We need to ease this one also a little bit so it's not that intense here. And you can also see they changed the curves here, which is quite nice. Well, first of all, let's move some of the keyframes away. We don't want that here so quickly. Let's go back on frame 0 and press play. And this is nice, the motion. Then we want to have the rotation. the rotation can actually start a little bit earlier and still it's super quick. But it's already so eased. Yeah. That's definitely nice, but it's a bit too early. So I'm selecting all my 3 motion keyframes and I'm moving them a bit here. So it's moving down there. And we got a nice rotation, but we can have a little bit more rotation here. So looking there, rotation, nice. Then let's continue our frames. Let's see. Well, that's a bit too abrupt. Let's see, press play, and I'm still looking at the rotation. This was quite fast rotated, so let's ease it in also more. And let's have a look at our x-axis. And that's interesting that we have like a quick hop in here, and also like that it's going at one direction here in one line. And let's see how it works. We have to ease it a little bit more, and perhaps even a little bit more, and it can start a bit earlier and end a bit less. So it's a bit more eased. Yep. Oh, perhaps even a tiny bit more. So let's see. That's nice. But this could also go a little bit further, and let's tweak some of the keys a little bit. And let's see, we have a nice starting motion, which is very slow, then a quicker rotation, which is nice. And then we can even increase this motion here. And let's see. Yeah, that's nice. But I think, for example, well, at the end, I don't want them to ease. I want to have a continuous motion, but they are moving a bit too much. But let's see like that. And rip. And driving here. Turning around. Spinning around. Yeah, I think this is quite an interesting motion. And let's have a look into our camera if we can like put that into this frame. I'm working again 4x5, which is probably the best format for Instagram. So keep in mind how to set up your animation. It would be interesting to fill the frame. So this guy is slowly working up, but we never see the guy from the front. So I would say we switch the camera angle. Let's see our last frame, he's here. So let's get in a bit more like this, and the beginning frame is there. So, oh, we're too close. But of course we can animate the camera, but again, you have to keep in mind motion blur. If we move too much, we get too much blur, and the scene is going to be quite busy already. So I will try to keep it at a minimum. Nice. Then let's put back on the cloner, and no, wait. Well, I want to first work with the camera because we're still in a very good frames per second, and I want to like animate the camera just a little bit. And let's see, I want definitely to have more perspective in the frame, because later on I want to create the scene with all the garbage kind of thing. So therefore I will quickly, only very roughly lay out my previous design. So I had 2 walls in the back, and on my second camera I can switch my camera back to perspective, and this guy can be a bit closer, can be a bit bigger, and yeah, this one can also be a bit bigger. So nice. It's just, again, really roughly layouted. And also because of the time, you would have to put the extras in there, but I only want to focus with you onto this guy. I'm trying to roughly position the guy into the composition, and I think this is nice. Just a little bit closer. Cool. Then let's give us a keyframe. So first keyframe, and then I don't want it to add too many keyframes, because then the camera is like, again, moving too much and crazy. So I'm changing everything only a little bit, and let's say till here we want to position this guy a little bit around. And at the end, the camera is following the guy a little bit. And then I will go into my camera and select all my keyframes. And I also select all of them and I want to ease them. Well, let's directly see how it looks. And I can already see this is too much camera motion. Or what could work. Then we would have to work on each of these tangents. So first of all, I don't want to ease, I want a more like a straight motion in here. I don't want this gap. Well, actually, perhaps the gap is nice. And at the end, I don't want to ease in there, and perhaps we can reduce the motion in here. And let's ease this a little bit more out. And I'm trying to like calm down the camera by easing in and out and making the cursor a bit around. For example, we have an end here. So therefore, I want to ease the end out a lot. And I don't want to ease in. I want to straight go in, but this guy can also be eased a bit more. And we have only a little bit of motion at the end. And overall, I also have to keep in mind that I'm not losing my guy. What do we got? There's the rotation, yeah. Rotation is a bit too much, I think. Okay, let's continue with the next camera. And this is also a rotation keyframe. And again, the rotation keyframes make a lot of motion, especially with such a long lens camera. Also, perhaps we'll reduce to 200, so it's not that intense anymore. We have a bit more view. So I guess these more keyframes I have to try to calm down, so we got less motion here. And as you see, by just changing these keyframes, we already made everything way more smooth. So yeah, I think camera-wise, we are in a really good position here. Let's also change this guy. I don't want to ease in and ease out because I want to have like a continuous motion, so it feels like it can continue over the cut, and I'll do the same for here. And don't want to ease in, don't want to ease out. I only want to ease my in-betweens. Nice. Let's save. I think camera motion and the motion of the sky looks pretty nice. In my experience, it's not too much motion blur and not too little, so we got something going on there. Let's put back on our stones. So these are the stones, and I think we can increase our field a bit. So let's have a look into my camera. We need to move them more to the front and move them a bit up, a few more stones. And yeah, like this. Cool. That's our base stone thingy here. And I need to activate, of course, all my dynamic tags, so I'll activate them back onto stones. My original one doesn't need one, and my box also gets the collider one. And let's press play and see how it works. And I still get 60 frames per second. That's really incredible. That's pretty good for the performance. And let's increase the amount for the base cloner, so we can see a bit more, but we will make this interesting later on. But let's first of all roughly see what is happening, and I'm aiming for like a good frame range to see if things still happen. Cool, now we got the overall look, and now I'm copying this guy. And this one should be, well, first of all, let's say the overall cloner, they should be a bit smaller. So I'm scaling them down a little bit. So this is really the base, and this guy is the circle clones, and in the grid I want to cut them off at the edge. So not cubic, I will switch down here to sphere. And if I'm moving out of my camera and I hide the base cloner and going into my circle, and it's not visible at all. Oh wait, there, no, wait. Sphere is gone. Well, that's weird. Why? Normally we would have a sphere here. Let's see. Okay. That's strange. Somehow I need 3 in the middle, so the stone is filled. Perhaps it has something to do with the random. No. Weird. I don't know what it is. But we need 3 in the middle. And let's also call this random base and random circle. And in the circle we will drag this random guy, and the circle one shouldn't have too much randomness. I want to reduce it a little bit, and because I like the effect of this circle, and the circle overall can go a bit smaller. And let's put the base also back in, and let's see, the circle should go a bit more here, and we want to have more, so let's say 35 by 35. Switch back into my camera, and let's press save. It's always good to save, and let's press play. So we are now down by 4 frames, 3.4 frames per second, but I think this is still quite good. But for now I'll reduce it only a little bit so we can work faster. And also this guy needs to be moved a bit to the side. You can of course put more into there as well. And also I will go a bit more wide angle so we can see a bit more what's happening in there. And let's say you are all set up with all different variations of stones and everything is done like you wanted to. Then what I was doing, I would go into the box, and we need a tractor object for everyone who is using an older version below 22 or something, and everyone above 22 would use a field force, because the field force somehow works a bit better than that tractor. That tractor has this infinite power at this one point, and I don't like that. So if you have to, it works as well, but we'll go with the field force. And I will put the field force into a box. Then I will need to piece art the sky, and I will quickly change my perspective here. And in the inside from the box, I want an object, or let's say just the bottom. The bottom is fine. So in the field force, I will select my bottom, put it into my force, and let's make the force also visible. And I only want one axis. So it's a flat plane, the visualization of the force. That's cool. We need a negative force, and I was playing around, and something like 20 was really working well. And you can see we only have a very little amount of force, because in the field force you need to select the bottom object, and we only have a radius of 20. That's quite low. And I played around, and the value like 180 was quite nice for me here there. Now you can see the direction of the intensity is all pushing towards our object. So it's a hover and like a magnet thing, and the objects already start to move towards this guy even before he starts to hit them. And our visibility, we can move down again. And let's see if it works. And the cool thing is the field forwards now moves around with the box because we have keyframes. And let's press play. And the first frame is always a bit slow, but then it starts. And let's have a look. Well, now, first of all, to be able to judge this better, how strong the intensity is, we need to have a better frames per second. So we need to drop everything a bit more down. And I will go by 10 by 10. And press play. And let's see, 10 frames per second is still quite good. And you can see some stones are already getting attracted to there. Here at the bottom, this guy is following. Here's another one. And I think this effect is really super interesting and nice. Some of them are following, only the small ones. This one starts to follow. And I think that's great, but I think we can increase that. So overall, let's increase the radius. So we will reach also further ones. And I think we need more strength. Let's try 29%. And I'll go back to frame 0 and yeah, this is too much. Now they really get dragged there a lot. Let's say 23. And yeah, 23 is quite interesting, I would say. So at the beginning there was a lot of motion, but now they are trying to follow this guy. And here they're following there. And let's see when he makes a bigger motion step. Here's another guy following. That's kind of cute. Now some of them are following. And he's building these nice piles when he's moving around. Leaving some of them behind, pushing some of them with him. So the field force, we can hide it now. We don't need to see it anymore. And let's go back into our circle clone. And let's go back to 30. So we had a lot of clones in here. And also, let's say the base can go back a bit more. And actually the base is really long. So let's shrink it down a little bit. We can move it more here. And a bit to the side. So nice. Perfect, save. Then what we need to do? We need, well, now there's one little trick, which is also really nice. Let's say you like everything what you did. And what I did, for example, I copied this circle and placed them around more, so to get a bit of a more random look of everything. And I have, of course, even more objects than only the stones. I have some, well, a lot of stuff. Also, talking of that, there's this asset browser, which I can't open from here, which is also very weird, but there's the shortcut Shift and F8. Now it's open, and this is the new asset browser in 24, and this is really nice. So you don't have to download anything anymore. You can directly search something in here, and let's say I want to have a button in there in my cloner, and I want to have a screw, or two types of screws. Let's see which one. This one as well. So everything is now downloaded, and that's pretty nice. That's a good update from Cinema there. And let's say we have these extra things, and I'm copying my circle, and I will call this extras. And in the extras, I can select the 3 objects I just downloaded. And for now, I will delete my retopologized guys. I only want to leave the rocks in there. And let's make this smaller. And we need, oh, not that small. Let's go with 6. Move it a little bit differently. And I want only a few. Well, let's space it out a bit more. So now we have this one circle there, and we have like this circle with some extras. The button is nice with the red, and we have some silver in there. And yeah, this could help us to break up the uniformity of the normal clones and everything. Cool, then you are happy with everything, and let's deactivate the dynamic text from our dynamic body and also deactivate the field force, because what I want is to save some of the first frames. Therefore, I'll just press play. And now the calculation takes already a bit longer, but let's wait a bit more because I want to wait till all the motion is out, the wiggling and jumping. So it's really important to not start at the beginning of your dynamic thing because it always looks so 3D and lame. So let's say I cached 50 frames and that's what I like. And then I only have to select my clones, go to dynamics, set initial state, go back to frame 0, and everything is how you like it. Now we only need to put on our field force again and the collider tag from the body thing. And we have 200 frames. I'll go into one of the objects and I'll go to bake all, and now everything is baked. And I would say this is or was a quite interesting lesson. We had an overview over some old techniques. We combined something new. And I showed you this process of how to work with this vacuum cleaner effect with the field force, and therefore everyone who doesn't have S24 can use the attractor objects. And yeah, I hope you liked it so far. And personally, I would recommend you to continue placing objects by your own. You can use your own objects, model own, get some from Megascan from somewhere else. And I will continue with you in the design part. And yeah, thank you to everyone for listening. Thanks for your support and have a good month. Bye bye. Actually, I'll make a quick cut and we have to see how the animation looks. So caching is done. Let's press play and see. And let's also go into our main camera, and we have 12 frames. That's decent. Yeah, and it's super nice. Moving this guys around. And let's have a closer look. I think the entrance was not really good. Stones are not getting in there. So let's have a look at the front guy and clear the cache and the front guy. I will give the front guy a separate tag, and for the collision, perhaps we need moving mesh. And let's only press play for a few frames and let's see if the stones are getting in there better. Well, also perhaps we have too much friction on the front part. And therefore I will copy this guy in here. And well, let's actually the cube. Yeah, sorry. This guy should get nearly zero friction. And let's see if the stones are gliding in there better. Somehow they're not going in there very well. This could have two reasons. Well, first of all, let's see if this is because of this guy. And let's press play and see if they're moving better in. And it doesn't look too much. The second thing what could have done, what's perhaps wrong, perhaps the field force pushes the stones to the edge because we have this whole object as a force. And therefore I will duplicate this guy and convert it. And let's call it I'm rendering. Let's call it force. And let's scale it down. And let's put it somewhere here in the center so we have more of the center motion. And the fourth guy is I will hide, and I will now go back in the field force, select my fourth guy and go to 250 and save. And perhaps you also don't need the moving mesh, which is very slow to calculate. And I somehow have 0 frames here. Now going back to this guy and press play. And now the stones are moving in perfectly. So that was the problem. It's important to more create as center objects. And then we will cache everything again. And yeah, then we will be able to continue whatever you want. So now, thank you very much and see you in the second part.